so many negative connotations. I hate to use it.
No. Yeah. I know. Yeah, you were talking central bank. I can see that kind of conspiracies happening in monetary and finance when it comes to finances, in influencing other countries.
Yeah.
From Brussels, but has Sean Castrol explained sometimes the government intervening, like he talks about fake terrorism and that kind of things. That's it's still completely in Portugal. In Portugal we don't have so much bullshitters. Like, I trust this. Every time I contacted with science here, I see real people working on real problems and concerning themselves with objective things.
Yeah. Well,
every time I went to the university and I assisted, I'm not getting the words, like a lesser. Okay, forget it. Every time I saw someone explaining their work and what they've done in the last years, the last decade, I only saw passionate people not controlled by any great entity.
Yeah, and you're down at a very granular level at that point, as opposed to a state.
Yeah.
As far as
That's true.
Control and statecraft and things of that nature, central banking is one that is worthy of scrutiny. Definitely.
The central bank acts in many ways, like what they deal with, the way they affect each country and benefit others, like controlling all the taxes and all these economy terms are lacking in my head right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for those kinds of activities taking place, but the thing that I always advise people that look into it to bear in mind is that the conclusions one jumps to are always going to lack massive pieces of information, and that's just a consequence of not having access to all of the data. Doesn't mean you're
but
stupid.
For example,
I mean, that's why I say that I don't know. A lot of this stuff I just don't know. I understand the ideas. I've been exposed to the ideas, but I really don't know.
These question marks in my head are a little bit annoying.
There's nothing you can do about most of them. I mean,
Yeah.
We lack access. It's that simple. Surviving is really the big question, and being, like, for instance, prepared for the power going out for 6 weeks. That's a practical consideration, and almost nobody's prepared for that. Hyperinflation, that's very possible. It happens. Look at Zimbabwe. Almost nobody's prepared for that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the central bank can create very easily.
Yeah, it's one of the things that the central banks create. It's the problems that they create, but it's required in order for Zimbabwe to come up to the, first world countries.
Yeah, these are considerations that have practical repercussions on you. Now, you could argue whether or not 9/11 does, but if something crazy happens and the food stops getting shipped to the supermarkets in our just-in-time economy, however the mechanism that brings that about might come about, that's a real-world thing that one can prepare for. And one has to evaluate the likelihood of different scenarios when deciding how you're going to expend your resources. Do you have water? Do you know how much water you need? Do you have a way of communicating if there's no electricity? These are things that I would prefer focus on.
Shit, the easiest way to bring us back to the Middle Ages. Cut off electricity.
Yeah. I mean, we're teetering.
We're back down to metal. That's it. No silicon, no.
No, because unless the cities crumble, all falls down, and there's a civil war, there's many people with the knowledge to bring back many things.
If you
Those
can,
things don't get lost.
if you
The
can
on- the
fry
dangers-
every single circuit in a 10-mile radius of any city, the impact, the global impact of any major city would be significant. If you detonated an EMP or something like that, and it fried every single circuit, and you had to replace every single circuit of every piece of technology in New York City, the impact, the global economic impact of that would be just incredible.
Yeah. People don't even collect books anymore. Not to
And-
mention books on survival, basic survival. I have a few, but I'm still woefully unprepared for that kind of scenario.
But you prepare yourself in any way regarding that?
Yeah, but I'm also at the same time admitting that it's not sufficient.
Right. Like
Yeah,
I
it
can
will
build
never
a
be sufficient.
fire. I know how to relatively grow crops, but all those things. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I'm by no means an expert and would probably not be sufficient in a world without electricity.
Virtually
No,
none of us
I
are.
know.
Yeah.
For example, I know that I have the natural skills. I know how to survive, especially in my area. But
Mhm.
if there's no water, you don't survive. That's the thing.
Yeah,
And you're also dealing with millions of other people that need water too.
exactly.
The people
And-
are going to be the
and-
biggest threat to you.
Yeah, and forms of government. You'd have to be able to create your own temporary government until things are fixed. And then even further, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Are you going to want to give up that power once you have it? Of course not.
Yeah, but in America, it would be very different than in Portugal, because there in
Yeah.
Portugal there's almost no guns.
Yeah.
Not
It's
as
also different
much
culture just in general. And you probably know more about survival just in general because there's just a lack of electronics and things like that in comparison to a major city of America.
Most people don't know how to make
No.
bread.
I don't think so.
I mean, try just off the top of your head. Say 300 million Americans. How many of those people, if you gave them the raw materials, would know how to make bread?
I do.
Uh,
In fact, I made some the other day.
I'd say 20 million, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's bread. That's not how do you determine if the water you're giving your kids is safe to drink.
Right.
But, you start really thinking about this stuff, and you realize we're kind of fucked if the infrastructure collapses. And
Yep.
the reason we're so fucked is there's 300 million starving Americans that are all scratching for the same limited resources, and the production has all shut down. So,
Yeah.
it's just ugly. It is what it is.
No supply, all demand. It creates a very dissonant.
Other way around. All demand, no supply.
Didn't I just say it?
No,
No supply, all demand.
but it's late.
Oh, well, regardless. You broke my train of thought, man. Go ahead. It's all your fault.
Yeah, EMP is probably the biggest because of the scope, the potential scope of its impact.
Yeah, I think EMPs though they're temporary and theoretical, right? Because so far we can only do a massive electromagnetic pulse, right before a nuke goes off.
Well, nukes are how I think, discovered the potential
it.
to do that. But
Yeah.
since then, they've developed ERD, enhanced radiation devices, that can
Oh, take it easy, Steve.
they can kind of direct the pulse, and you can get a lot. Like if you detonate a nuke, you're going to have a lot of effects, not just an EMP, not just radiation. You got blast effects and
Right.
things like that. So what they've worked on are
Magnetic
devices. Yeah, get a minimal blast effect, but a maximal radiative effect. And whether they have during the Gulf War, this last one, they were talking about E-bombs.
Oh, wow.
That was 15, 16 years ago.
Okay,
Well,
so we
14,
can't.
15. Evidently.
Yeah.
Have I seen one? No. I-
Again, probability matrix.
Yeah. But we understand the principles involved, and you've got neutron devices. Same kind of idea, but different kind of radiation. Let's kill all the life, but leave the infrastructure in place. That's a cherry tool.
Yeah.
If you could just kill all the people in an area without destroying the
that's a hydrogen bomb, right?
No, it's a hydrogen bomb is basically an atom bomb used to trigger a fusion reaction.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, a neutron
Which
bomb
one's
is
the one that sucks all the air out?
what do they call that? It's a fire device.
Like it just sucks the air out. Well, it fills the air with nitrogen or something like that, and you can't breathe and you suffocate to death.
Well, there's halon, which is used in data centers to starve the fire by taking the oxygen away from it. That's not even a explosive. That's just a chemical reaction.
It's an inert gas, isn't it?
Yeah, it just dumps into the room, and now they've got new ones that displace. It's not toxic. I can't remember what the new ones are called, but as far as EMP goes, we understand how it works. To what extent it's been developed by rogue nations, I don't know.
Yeah. That's even a completely other potential issue. Nations that are willing to detonate massive, damaging bombs and things like that in major cities.
I would nuance that in a slightly different way. Nation states that are willing to invest the R&D to develop them, and then those getting in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
So that it's not a nation state that's...
And it doesn't have to be a bomb. It can be a fucking, a chemical weapon.
Yeah.
Ebola. The other day, or the other year, I guess you can say, we nearly had an Ebola outbreak, dude. That hasn't happened in fucking, 70 years?
Well, it snuffs itself out. Ebola was, I think, discovered... Actually, Marburg was the original bug that was discovered, I think, on the border of Zaire and Uganda or something like that. And Kidum Cave was the exact place. And that's like the patient zero of Marburg. And then Ebola and the rest of them potentially were engineered from that.
Okay.
But Ebola snuffs itself out so quickly.
What state do you live in?
Kentucky, if you can believe that.
Okay. I have trouble believing that.
Yeah, there is actually evidence of I think it was called the Special Cancer Virus Program.
And that was like for Ebola and all that?
Well, it's discussed in the context of HIV, but the fiddling around with viruses and trying to engineer a weapon. Like right now, the big thing is genetically targeted biological weapons, where you can. Yeah, there's
target blonde hair.
Yeah, they say, okay, what's the sequence we want, and this thing will find that gene sequence and snip it right there, and just shut an organism down, targeting specific heredities. That shit's...
Darwin would fucking love that.
Just depends on what you mean by love.
Oh man, because he would think, okay, well, to better advance the human race, we will kill all people who have Down syndrome.
Yeah, it's like eugenics par excellence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another wild card if something like that got loose, and there's no way to prepare for that.
No. Although
Isolation.
we do have preparation things for that in place, like the government does. Shit, the government even has preparations for like ridiculous shit, like alien invasions.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to what I prioritize, it's what's the most practical. Like during an ice storm, that's 2 weeks.
What is pragmatic?
You may not be able to get to the grocery store for 2 weeks. That's easy. You can prepare for that, and that's much more likely than an EMP burst over the country.
Cans of beans and potatoes. That's all you need.
Yeah, and
2
then
weeks.
in
water.
And then what I'll do is like create the hierarchy of what's a less likely but more catastrophic scenario. And I mean, if you really want to prep and you're serious about it, you'll start building a network of people that have skills, and you take advantage of division of labor. You have somebody that's a ham radio operator, and you have somebody else that's a gun nut, and then you have somebody else that knows how to grow stuff and can start storing heirloom seeds. And this network of people understand if power goes out.
Heirloom seeds. That's funny you know that.
This is something I spent a lot of time in my late 20s obsessed with. So I do have some familiarity with it. But yeah, network of people that have a plan. not individuals running off into the woods with a gun. That's not going to solve anything.
No.
Because ultimately you're going to be winding up
Ultimately, you'll just be killing yourself. But that's
in that case.
Yeah.
But in any of these massive without rule of law scenarios, ultimately you're going to have warlord types with 2,000 or 3,000 people that have got behind them, and you cannot resist that unless there's 2,000 or 3,000 of you that can resist them.
Then it's a question of technology.
Yeah,
but that's relevant here.
Yeah, ham radio. I mean, EMP to an extent might discount that, but you can even prepare for that. You can keep some equipment in like a Faraday cage type thing.
Yeah.
If you have the parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Survival
basically,
and
as long as the electronics were not activated or have a battery while the EMP was detonated, then they will work fine. You take those electronics and you do it.
Well, the way that I understand EMP's effect on electronics is that the electrons are going to find the path of least resistance, and when they encounter conductive material, they're going to go straight through that, just like lightning does. And so, whether or not it's running or not, whether or not it has a battery in it, when it hits copper, it's going to flood that copper with electrons on its way into a ground, or actually not even a ground because it's being pushed outward spherically. So,
if that's true, it should dissipate before activating a circuit.
If it's far enough away, that's correct.
Yeah,
because it's an inverse square kind of potency.
So really, I used to know this so well too. The theory of an EMP, when I read it, maybe it was fact. I just don't remember seeing fact anywhere. The circuits must be active because the EMP, the pulse, will disrupt the active circuit and short it. So it would have to be active in order to do that, wouldn't it?
I think an active circuit would provide less resistance and thus be more vulnerable to its effects. Yeah. But again, if it's a conductor, those electrons are going to hit that and funnel down that conductor and fry whatever. You're going to have electromigration like crazy. And the further you are away, then the less of an issue that is. But
reasonable. Hey, V's brother, how are you? He looks very confused.
Somebody probably just went through a browser history and said, "What's this?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was the deer in the headlights so much.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad we got that too on tape. Yeah, and see, oh man, not to fucking go back to this whole shit, but what we just did, we had a reasonable debate, considered each other's points, and actually I think we both conceded to the other's ideas. But regardless, I mean, that's man, why is that so difficult? Sorry, I don't mean to go.
Hold on.
I'm just gonna kick it, just in case.
Awkward.
Yeah. I shouldn't have talked so quickly, but maybe he doesn't. Well, maybe V is short for Victor or something. Fuck.
Well, who would have known?
Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, I mean, I don't recall ever being so closed off to other possibilities. I've been certain of things, been proven wrong, and said, "Oh, you're right. Thank you." And that's fucking it. That's all it takes. Fuck.
Sometimes it takes a while because you'll encounter the contrary information before it's been backed up, and it does take a while
Yeah.
to come to that conclusion. But yeah, dude, the whole conspiracy theory thing when I was in that was a very bitter lesson. Oh,
Just keep kicking it. Don't get the guy in trouble. I mean, like, fuck.
no, I don't want him to get in trouble. That's the point.
Actually, let's move to channel 1.
All right.
Kestrel, do you mind moving to channel 1, please?